you so much.
My
Except
name's
for Lynda.
Lynda,
Yes. Hi,
Lynda
Lynda.
Kennedy. And I'm in Southern California, and it's raining and ugly and wet here. So I want you to know we are again in the same club. Um, I have been on my spiritual journey. I'm a psychic. I am strong into past lives lately. And I have found out that I'm also a medium. There are a few people who have passed who don't want to go through my spirit guide. They evidently want to go right through me. And that has been a really new and interesting experience. And I have found out in this journey that the older I get, the more that spirit opens up inside of me. It's a matter of I'm being a good shepherd of my gifts. And because I'm not busy with work and kids and all of that, I have time to be in my spirituality. And that's where it comes from. For me, when I was very young and being psychic, it was frustrating because I realized early that people weren't seeing what I was seeing. I realized early, and I had the smarts enough to shut up about it. I didn't talk about the ghosts I was seeing because they would have been my imaginary friends. And I wasn't into that because being psychic, I could also tell when people were telling lies. And as a devout Catholic, I got really confused because in my world, there was no hell. When you die, you transmute into something else. And there wasn't this heaven and hell thing because I could talk to people who died.
Mhm.
So I did the only logical thing to do. I went into the convent and decided to become a nun because if I became a nun, they would teach me how to believe in hell. I mean, I was the only one in that church who was going, yeah, okay, now tell me about hell. Not that I was fascinated with it, but I wanted somebody to, Meredith, darling, hi. I wanted people to convince me because I wanted to be a good girl. And 2 years in the convent, I decided being a good girl wasn't that important anymore, and I wasn't going to believe in hell no matter what they taught me. So I married and for 30 years, and my husband decided he was gay. And I married again, and I married a man who wanted to sleep with everybody I knew and did. And so I think I kind of explored a lot of stuff in this growing up. I have one child, and he's 49 now. And it was not easy all the time, knowing the answers were different than what people told me. And that's the pain of being psychic. That is the pain. Because as a child, I was raised in a strict Lithuanian household, and I knew more. I knew more. And what do you do with knowing more? What do you do? Where do you go with that? So I could play parlor games. Like if I've never been in your bedroom, I could tell you what color it was, what kind of a weird clown doll you had sitting in a rocking chair. And I just left it there because I didn't want to get the wrath of everybody. They thought I was a magician or something. I don't know. Well, later on, I met a woman who everybody was supposed to be scared of. She was one of my husband's boss's wives. And I met her, and instantly we were best friends. We got the same jokes. And that's when I fell into past lives. She sent me the book, the amazing book by Dr. Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters. And then people in my life started making sense. I understood the past life connection. And it opened up another level for me. It's like my world, like the atom bomb where it goes up. Well, when I found out the many lives, it exploded out. It just exploded out. And I was going to a church, Agape, out in Southern California. It's a very popular, large church that was very open-minded, open at the top, totally inclusive. And they were doing a conference I was volunteering at. And this well-known psychic, Hans King, I'm sorry, came over to me and said, "You have to start using your gift." And immediately I say, "What gift?" And he said, "Your gift." And I said, "No, I don't." And I'm like trying to go into the walls. He said, "You have to start using your gift." Damn. I was okay, fine. Then people saying, "What do you do? What is the gift? What is happening?" And I said, "Well, I'm psychic." And they went, "You're what?" And I started doing readings, and it kind of blossomed from there. And I didn't delve into my past life stuff. Being psychic was enough for the moment, was enough. And then past lives became so important. And I just finished doing a documentary about me and about past lives and how it affects your life today. So, having said that, I want to take a back step because I asked this question at the last time we met, and I want to give you the story about between husbands. I was dating a fellow, and we had to go to New Orleans for business. I could not wait to get there. I was leaping off the seat in the plane. How old was I? 58 and acting the fool. I can't wait. And my boyfriend, he was a black fellow and kind of like, "You're being crazy again." And I just couldn't wait. He goes, "Honey, it can't be as good as you think it is. There is no way New Orleans can be as good as you think it is." Well, let me tell you, girlfriends, it was better. There was something about that city. I was deep in the pavement there. I knew where things were. I I got the joy of it. It just was probably the most glorious 5 days of my life. And I got to tell you, I've been to Paris. So when I tell you New Orleans was the best 5 days of my life, I'm stacking that with the Eiffel Tower. You know, yeah. And what happened was we went on the cemetery tour. And on this cemetery tour, the last stop was at a voodoo priestess room. And they said her palace, but it looked like you go in the back door of a garage. But inside it was very red and very plush, and there were things in jars all over the wall. And there was 8 of us on a tour, and the priestess walked in yellow robes, and she sat down. She looked around the room and she said, "You must have questions." And one woman raised her hand and said, "Why is there a baby doll in the jar over there?" And it's like, I don't know what she thought the priestess was doing, but she looked around the room slowly with this grin on her face. She pointed right at me and said, "You tell her." So I don't know where it came from, but I told her. Move on from there. About a year later, I was in Jamaica. And okay, I'll be really honest. I was having an affair with a chauffeur in Jamaica because why not? Stella went there to get her groove back. I found mine. So on the last night we were there, Roy took me around to the beautiful resorts in the back doors of them. And we're going all over Jamaica. And we came upon this little white church. It was a wooden white church. And there were women dancing outside the church in white. There was a bonfire. They were dancing, 7 of them. And there was about, 10, 15 people watching, including Roy and I. And all of a sudden, the dance stopped. One of the women came over and grabbed my hand, told me to kick off my shoes. And hell yeah, I'm going to do it. So I kicked off my shoes. They grabbed my hands and they showed me how to do this dance around the fire. So after it was over, I got a couple hugs and I went back to Roy and he goes, "What happened?" And I said, "Well, they invited me to dance." He goes, "They don't invite people to dance." And I said, "She came over to me." And he says, "I don't know who you are." And he got back in the car and we left. Mary again moved to Nashville. And we're in this club on New Year's Eve, and it was cold outside. I mean, cold. And this woman in a yellow sundress, I swear, off the shoulder spaghetti straps, walks over and she said, "You must go back to New Orleans." And I was sitting there going, "Why?" And she says, "They need you there." And I, "No, they don't." And she said, "You are Marie Laveau." No, I'm not. Thanks a lot. I'll try to go. No, I'm not. So all of a sudden, I'm thinking about all of this, and Marie Laveau is a very famous voodoo priestess in New Orleans. Well, worldwide, I guess. And I thought, yeah, no, because I knew I could believe in my past life, because I knew I wasn't Eleanor Roosevelt or Queen Victoria. I knew I was just some person in past lives. And here I am, Marie Laveau. So at this time, I meet a guy who wants to do a documentary about me. And all of a sudden, I call a friend and I say, "He wants to do a documentary. I got nothing to say." And she says, "Well, did you tell him you're Marie Laveau?" "Why do you think so?" She says, "Well, I thought you knew." And I had to sit back in that for a moment. Do I own this? Do I run from it? And then all of a sudden, I had this urge to take a cigar rolling class. The fellow I'm seeing and we took a cigar rolling class. And then I realized tobacco is used in a lot of voodoo rituals. And all of a sudden, everything I was doing, I go to a predominantly Black church, and I wanted to be respectful at Kwanzaa. We were asked to wear African clothing, but you might tell I'm white. So I said, I'll wear something in the colors. I do have African clothing. And I pulled out a black outfit. It's not as somber as you think, and a patterned yellow scarf. And I put it on the closet Saturday, so I'll wear it Sunday morning. I don't get up good. And I went to read my book on Marie, and it said she's often seen in flowing yellow scarves. I went back in there and changed scarves because I had picked out something that had come up from my past life. And then, well, Christmas Day, the week before, I dropped a friend off at the airport. And my friend Angie and I make these little Ziploc bags of socks, tuna cans, energy bars, and I put a $5 bill in them and we hand them out to the homeless. When we see somebody, we give them a thing. So Christmas Day, I saw two guys talking outside their tents on the roadway. And I grabbed the bags and I handed them out. And then I got home and I read that Marie Laveau hands out bags of money and food to those who are homeless. So spirit, now I got to own. Now I have to own this. I can't anymore. I was talking earlier about running into the closet. Well, this one made me want to run. But I realized through Anastasia being so conscious, that's your last life coming forward, which time-wise makes perfect sense. So now evidently a voodoo queen who was a nun, who's also a spiritual practitioner. In other words, I don't know who the hell I am anymore. And I'm comfortable with that because as a crone, I don't need all the answers. But I ended up here. And then a friend of mine, her son died at 52. And I cannot take Mark and just see him and talk to her. I become Mark. So now all of a sudden, all of that psychic ability has changed again. And the only thing I can attribute this to is my age. My age. I'm walking forward. Uh, my son takes this in stride. My daughter-in-law thinks I'm crazy, and maybe in a good way, I don't know. But I have always found it hard. Like, I'll go to a class reunion, and our high school is, oh my God, we have 3 reunions a year. And I have read for some of them, and one of the women who I read for, her mother was going into surgery. And I said, oh, she's going to be fine, but there's going to look like there's a complication, and it really is a small fix, but don't, I did all of this, and I was right. And I'm at this class reunion, and somebody said, Lynda's psychic, and 3 of the people said, oh, that's just crap. You can't be. I don't believe in any of that. And I'm just sitting there. I'm not asking anybody to believe, but already there's an attack. And it wasn't a mean attack, but it's like, I don't have to prove this to you. I just have to sit in the silence of my knowing. And it was funny because on the end of the table where I was, I had read for everybody, and they went, yeah, she is. And I sat there with it. And I've noticed so often in this journey, and by the way, I always call it spirit, and my name for God is sweet spirit. I know that it's all energy, but the minute you say God, you get a wrath from some people. And Lord knows I never say I don't believe in hell, but I say it to you guys because then all of a sudden everybody's convinced I'm going there and they want to save me. And I thank them, but it's not happening. And so I guess what I want to talk about today is not just my experience, because I think that when we as women walk out of the norm, as the witches they burned in Salem, as women are persecuted for being witches and using herbs, I think I want to talk about how difficult it is to walk 1 foot in spirit, 1 foot in the real world, and how much courage it takes for each of us to be true to who we are. We all know there's places you don't want to go and just lay it out there on the table. Hi, I'm a psychic. And then you get, okay, what's my favorite color? Like I care. Like my spirit guide's going to care. Like this ain't happening. And I have to tell you one more story. I call him boyfriend, but he's younger than my son. He's 6'4", and he's a Reformed Baptist preacher. And I call him Bubba. And I don't know why, but he's Bubba. And the minute I knew him and saw him, I knew that we were going to be great friends. It was a past life thing. And he's scary. He's 6'4". I mean, shoulders, played semi-pro ball, and he's Dr. Reverend Seth Pickens. Dr. Reverend Seth Pickens. And when I met him, he said, you've got to tell me about that necklace. And I said, the necklace is from Africa, the outfit's from Indonesia, and the underwear is from Target. And he started laughing, and he couldn't stop. He could not stop. And I went like, oh shit. I mean, when I said underwear, I was trapped. I didn't know where to go with that. And then we were talking on the phone one night, and he said, you're psychic. No, I'm not. And he started laughing. And so I helped him go through a divorce. But it's weird. I mean, I don't really care what people think about me. I'm too old and too tired. I work too hard to get to be me. But there's decorum, and you just don't tell a preacher where you got your underwear. And somehow I broke another barrier. I broke another barrier by saying my underwear is from Target. And it's like spirit speaks through me more than my brain can catch up to it. It's like, oh shit, is that coming out of me? Oh shit, and you're watching your words and you're watching your relationships and you're going, if anybody's on here on Reiki that does Reiki, I have great respect for that. But you can sit across the room and kind of start healing somebody. And do you say it? No, you just sit there and work on their knee or whatever it is and their energies. And I think in a way, we're all in a secret society, you know, and we have our tribe. We just have to find it. And Anastasia has been so kind to set up this group. So I don't want to dominate this conversation, but I would like us to talk about the areas we walk in two worlds, like work at work. If you're a teacher, you don't get too spiritual in there. They frown on spirituality in public schools. If you work in a store, unless you're in Nashville, you tell everybody you believe in God and you want them to come with you. But in New York and in California, we don't do that out here. Uh, oh, I got to do one more quick story. We moved to Nashville, my second husband and I, and I'm vegetarian. And it's hard in Nashville, let me just tell you, it's not quite as easy. And so I decided that I'll go to the bookstore, and if there's books for vegetarians, I know I'll be okay. So I go to Books a Million, and there are 10 racks of barbecue books. And then there's a section this big about vegan or vegetarian. And I found a book I didn't have. So I pulled it out and I'm walking up to the register. And there was an older lady behind me, gray hair, lavender blouse, white collar, lace collar, and a gray jacket. I mean, your ideal look of a librarian from the 50s. I mean, that's what she looked like, hair in a bun. And I get up to the register, and the woman's asked me, checking me out, said, "Do you belong to our book club?" And I said, "I just moved to Nashville. Can you explain the book club to me?" She said, "Oh, yeah, if you pay $10, we give you this book bag, and then we give you a discount on all your books." And I said, "Sure, sign me up." So as she's filling out the paper, she said, "You're new to Nashville?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Have you found your church home yet?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of a Unitarian." And she goes, "Well, I don't believe I've ever heard of that. What does that mean?" And I says, "Well, we kind of read a lot of books by other manifestations." And she goes, "Don't you just find that reading confusing?" The woman worked in a bookstore. The woman behind me, the 50s librarian, laughed so hard she fell into a display. I had to help her up. And it comes from it's so strange that Christians want to save me all the time. And I want to help them because they live under the fear of heaven and hell. And I can't imagine the pressure that is. So those are a couple of my encounters. Now, we want to do an installment plan, I can do another 20 weeks. But have any of you run into that where you're not doubted, you're just kind of told off that this can't be happening? That this, oh, Michelle, you're nodding. Yeah, I've been there. Does anybody want to share something like that? Because I think that's an experience unique to us.
Right.
If you're a born again Christian, you're converting the world, man, your posse follows you. They multiply, and it gets crazy. I remember going to a Bette Midler concert, and there was the guy with the big tall signs there. "We are going to hell. There's fornicating in there." And I said, "In the sports arena?" And I'm like, I just didn't think that was part of her show. And then the next time I went, there were more guys with big signs. They find each other. And I don't I don't know how they multiply. I just don't know, but they do. So part of my talk is prosper. Share the stuff because there's got to be more of us than them, please. So, God, I can, but you guys know already what I'm saying. You know this, you have experienced this. You know, if you're, I'm going to go back to Reiki. If you do Reiki, they go, can't you be a real doctor? If you're psychic, oh, you have an imaginary friend, or you're making shit up. And there's stuff we can't make up. We just can't. We just have to be us, and that takes courage, and that takes support, and also that takes confidence in your own abilities. That takes so much confidence. So first, I want to honor you, and second, I want us to be a posse where all that weirdness is cleared once a month, because I'm old, and I got to tell you, it still affects me. You know, dancing in that voodoo dance, Roy said, what did you do? Why'd you do that? I didn't have the words to explain. It felt right. I was invited. And my second husband, when that woman said, you are Marie Laveau, he looks at me and goes, who's Marie Laveau? And I just started laughing, like, yeah, too long to explain. And come on, anybody else do this, or is it just me? Am I getting the skeptics alone out here in Southern California? Meredith, you're shaking your head. You got something to share, girl?
Yeah,
Oh,
everybody
no, I'm
on mute yourself if you wanna say something
Jump in.
one at a time.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Hi.
Hey, ladies. I mean, this is
Uh-huh.
yeah, I run into some very strange people in my social group here in Manassas. People know what I do because my mother-in-law told them. I asked her, please don't tell her, tell anybody. But people come to me with discreet little questions sometimes, you know. And my father-in-law actually, now Lynda knows my father-in-law. He came to me for a reading, which is like, and Lynda was like,
No, he didn't. Dan?
yeah.
Oops.
You gotta know Dan. Okay, go ahead.
Dan, you've known Dan longer than I have. The little sparks that we get are people who kind of come out of the woodwork, like, I kind of want to ask you a question. And they know you're weird, but there's this little spark in them that connects with you, and to be even a little bit visible encourages the weirdness in others to come out and play, I
Good
think.
point.
But it's not easy. I mean, I grew up having this ability and not wanting to freak people out or get into trouble, or I don't know.
I gotcha. I do have to say something. Meredith married a guy that my son went to kindergarten with, and that's how we know each other. And I went to David's first wedding with his wife. We never became friends. And then David's mother called me and says, you got to meet Meredith. And she was so excited. And Meredith and I are trusting sisters in many ways now, because I know, unfortunately, Sandra, David's mother, just passed. But Dan is cantankerous. I love him. I adore him. But he's the crotchetiest old man. Oh my God. And he was when he was 30. It's never changed for Dan. And so when she said Dan asked her for a reading, I'm like, holy shit, that's not the Dan I knew. So how was he after the reading, Meredith?
He was intrigued, and then I'll say something to him like as a joke, like, "Oh, you're gonna become a dad again at 73." He's like, "What do you see?" I'm like, "Dan, I'm just joking." But me being me and it's encouraging him to get into his emotional side, his, you know, in his own weirdness. And there's plenty of that. I love him. There's plenty of weirdness there.
You know, there is so much weirdness with some people. You can't hate them because they're just weird. If he was a little less weird, we would debate with him. But he's so weird, you don't debate it, just stand. You have people in your life like that. You've just got to accept them for who they are.
Mhm.
And I'm shocked that Dan asked you for a reading, but what that says is we're making headway.
He
Yeah.
now believes in a woman's right to choose as well.
Shut up. Shut up.
I swear to God is my witness, or I'm telling you, he's like, you should have control over your body, Meredith. I'm like, yeah, that shit.
I can't get this. When a lot of the world is going MAGA here, which is like the weirdest thing I've ever seen, Dan is becoming, okay, never mind. Not nice to talk about him when he's not here, but thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I have so much to tell you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure those of us who are gifted in that way definitely have had our challenges. Anybody would like to share about their experience? Because I can share my own as well. I work with people and I freaked a couple of people out and I have not seen them since. And then there's people who are like, really? What do you see? But my least favorite is when they're clearly are afraid, when they find out or notice something about you and they're clearly afraid. That's all there is, because they don't understand it and they think you can read their mind, their deepest, darkest secrets. They do kind of start to ask all these challenging questions, or like, right, I'm not interested. It's not how it works. And even if I knew, I don't care. It's none of my business. And there's ethics attached to that as well. It's not like we're going around, that's not ethical to intervene into somebody's energy field without permission, but stuff happens without permission and it comes through and you can't help it.
Well, I have got to say, though, you're setting yourself up, Anastasia. The last conversation, she had the fire getting ready on the side of her house to go for a walk. Well, when you walk on fire, the neighbors are going to talk.
Yeah.
The neighbors are going to talk. This has to be a conscious decision that you're going to look
Yes.
crazy to many of your neighbors.
And you know what? I agree with you there. I am too tired to care.
Yeah.
I do not care. I start to drum and I don't care. I freak people out. Good. Come be my sacrifice. No, but I understand. Who would like to share their experience about this? Thank you so much, Lynda. I love your stories. So relatable. I can identify with so many things, and I love that you're embracing it all and you're sharing with us, because yes, our past lives do come through like that and we do start to channel. And when you're a medium, it's a little more, I feel like I don't know if it's a little more difficult, because you physically you kind of physically embody that spirit, and it does require some of your energy to do that. And so it's a lot, but it's very I think it's amazing. I love when it happens, and I love everything that comes through. Not everything, some things, yeah, but I thank you so much for sharing that, because I love it. I love when I hear it in other people's lives, because it makes me understand, okay, I'm not the only one, you know.
Mm.
So who else?
I want to say something quick,
Yes,
Anastasia.
yes,
Anastasia. I have a
yes.
friend called Anastasia,
That's
and
okay.
I
Yes.
get to Anna, and then I have to figure it out.
Oh, you
Anastasia.
can do Anna. There you go.
All right. When I get to Anna, then I have to think for a second. But my second husband and I were in Las Vegas at a meeting, and there were 1,000 people there. And he said, "How many spirit guides do you see?" And that third eye opened up, and the room doubled in size.
Mm.
And I said, "Don't you ever do that to me again." And I went running out of the auditorium, and I went in a bathroom stall to try to clear that, because I don't go through my life looking to see everybody's spirit. I can't. I don't. My bandwidth is much
Right,
shorter than that.
right,
And
right.
Greg comes running and waiting for me outside the bathroom. He goes, "Honey, are you okay? What happened?" I said, "Don't ever ask me to do that again. Do not ever ask me to see everybody's spirit guide."
Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot
It's
considering every single person has a bunch. So that's a lot. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
For Linda, you, I don't know if this is on topic for today or not. We discussed at some point having conversations with others when we felt this pull, like that we had shared a former life together. And do you have any tips or tricks for doing that in a way that's not awkward or scary?
I've been thought of as awkward my whole life, Meredith. I am not the most graceful, whatever. Um, it's just for me, when I meet somebody I know that I've journeyed with before, I'm more relaxed and I can say things of meaning. My idea of torture and hell is a cocktail party with small talk. Oh, Lord, I can't do it if we're not going to be talking. Now, I can shoot the breeze with people. I'm not talking about that. But when we see someone, Meredith and I instantly hit it off. She was in Alaska, I'm in California, and hey, girlfriend, it was an immediate connection. And it was Sandra who noticed that. I just relax around them and I'm more my natural self, and then they become approachable.
Mhm.
But it's very hard. I'm going to share this in strictest confidence. Uh, you've all heard of Tony Robbins,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yes.
he was one of the judges at the Inquisition, and I didn't fare well. I cannot be in the same room with him. Now,
Mhm.
I can't write that down as his bio. I mean, I can't, but that's what was clear to me. And I know a lot of people he's helped, and I don't know if he's in past life. And I can't even guarantee that this was true, but that's somebody I see across the room, and I kind of stay on the other side of the room. And I am comfortable with people I've known before. I'm comfortable around them, past lives, because pretty soon they're comfortable with me. They don't know why.
Mhm.
I know. And that's all it takes. But if I've known you in a past life, we're buds, whether you know it or not.
Mhm.
We truly are. And then I just wait for them to get comfortable, because you can't go up and say, "I know we're going to be great friends. I know who you are." And then they'll run to the bathroom and get in a stall.
And then you run after them into the stall.
And you can't you have to relax into it.
Yeah.
I recognize you. And then it's patience, in my opinion, in my experience. At that point, it's patience.
Just looking for the end.
Looking for a space to
Yeah.
walk in. Like if all of a sudden they need a napkin, you notice it and you hand them a napkin. And that kind of, it's a way to communicate until they're ready
Mhm.
in a very
I love
small way.
that. Thank you,
Huh?
Linda.
You're welcome.
Mhm. You know, the same goes for the opposite. It's funny you just mentioned Tony Robbins, because I recently attempted at partaking in one of his seminars and I just could not. I was like, I do not like this energy. I can't put my finger on it, but I want to be away from this as far as possible. And now every time I see his face, I'm like, so that tells me that past lives, when you recognize your soul cluster or your familiar person, and you have that you're drawn to them in some way. I feel the same thing happens when it was an unfortunate connection as well, or there's something off about them, even if it's from previous life. Like he could have been a negative cult leader in a past life, and he's still holding some of that energy around him. But people who work with energy in one capacity or another will have like real sensitivity to that. And you might not know what exactly it is about the person, but you'll be just appalled in some way, or just, you know what, I'm not going to touch to that even with a stick. So same thing
I have
goes.
to, that's a beautiful way to say it, because I think this all sums up with trust your gut.
Yes.
Trust your gut.
Yes.
I don't have to overcome my, not fear or of Tony Robbins, but discomfort around him. I don't have to overcome it. I'm too old, too tired. Why bother? And even if I was 22, I'd be too old, too tired, and why bother?
Yeah.
Our flocks, our lives. I know I'm an old soul. I know I've been around a lot. So I've got a network, and I call them my posse, my beloved posse. I don't have to prove anything to anybody
That's right.
or try to get over a damn thing anymore. I'll get over it. No, I don't want to.
Don't tell me what to do.
You're not my boss.
That's right. Anybody else would like to share about your experience, any difficulties you've encountered, or any curious stories you've encountered, anything that's coming forward for you right now?
Boy, do I start a great conversation.
Yes. Yes, you did actually, because I have a lot to say, but I'm trying to let other people speak. No, Michelle? No? Okay.
I
Eleanor?
had a story.
Oh, there we go. Hi.
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 No, I had multiple encounters with people who were clearly in my cluster. Like it just happens where like, I know you, I've known you my entire life. 5 minutes into a conversation, you feel like you've known them for years, for decades, and then it feels different. It's not forced. You don't feel awkward. You can be yourself around these people. And one of the most interesting stories was I was looking for my guitar teacher for my son, and we walk into this guy's apartment. Before I even see his face, I just see his silhouette, and I'm like, oh, I know you. I know you. And like, this is so familiar, and the energy is familiar and everything. I didn't say anything. But after the class was done and I got home, he texted me. He goes, "We know each other from past life." I was like, "Yep, yes, we do. Yep, yep." Yeah, because he's a Buddhist, so he a little to an extreme for my liking, but he knew immediately as well. And we even went to like a Buddhist temple together. And I just, out of curiosity, because I went there and I'm like, oh, this feels like home. I feel like I've done this before, but like I'm over it, like I've graduated this step, but it feels familiar. And I asked him, I'm like, how do you feel when you're there? He goes, I feel like I'm at home. I'm like, yep, yep. So it's really cool when you meet random people. I met this guy off of Facebook, out of all places. It's not like I met him in person and then I felt a connection. No, it was like on Facebook. We went in for class, and it was just, I love those moments where you meet someone like that and you feel immediately like you've known them your entire life. And we even tried dating for a second. And I knew like we've done this before. And then Anastasia looked up the cards and she's like, yep, you've done this before. You don't need to do this. She's like, you don't need to do this again. So I told
You
them, I'm like,
can, but I don't encourage. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I knew we hooked up, and I was like, oh, something's off, right? And like, I don't care for this. Like, I feel like I've done this before, and I don't care for this anymore. So that's what it was, and it was just like one of those recent, more or less recent stories that happen as far as soul connection goes. And of course, every time we have a retreat, or we all these women gather, and it's amazing how even when like if there's somebody who's never met the rest of the girls comes in, and they're a little shy at first, but then by the end of it, everybody's like is like best friends, and it's like we've done this before, and we probably have, and it's amazing because it's on this deeper level than just being friendly, you know because you kind of get vulnerable together, and it takes courage, of course, and you allow the process of whatever it is we're doing, whether we're walking on fire or through fire or climbing through wombs or crying to each other or telling like talking about deep, dark, and scary stuff. I love those when women actually let themselves to experience it, and then we all bond on a like a
Yes.
on a whole different level. But then I get people like one of my bosses at work who is, or he thinks he's religious, but he's not, because he follows all the rules. But the way he acts and speaks is not in alignment with like the higher divine, with like the God, because it's all superficial and it comes from fear. And those are the people that when I meet them, I'm like, that like you can tell right away. So that's what, when you talk about Tony Robinson, it's probably like it's just not in the alignment of the divine, so it kind of gives off the ick immediately, and you can tell when it's not genuine. So I mean, that's how I tell. When it's like full of fear, I can tell you are just scared. I think it's the fear that gives it off when you know that
Yeah.
person. So just the things they do, the things they say. But yeah, that's my experience with it.
Thank you.
And I love that you said in line with the divine. I don't know if I probably have heard that before, but now it's part of my vocabulary. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I don't think that's in Tony Robbins. I don't think it's fear. I think it's his abruptness or just harshness of some sort. I'm not sure, but whatever. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Speaking on the religious stuff is for me, it's I do not believe there's heaven or hell. I mean, maybe no.
No.
I haven't seen and heard and smelled and known the other side. It's sort of like, yeah, that does not make any sense. I mean, there is a hell, but it's personal and individual to each one person. It's a personal hell. There's no one skillet out there of fire. It's I believe we create our own, and we do it daily here already. Yes. Anybody else? Thank you for sharing that. Yes. And I've
Yeah.
met him, so I know. And I had the same feeling like, oh, yeah, we've known this dude before. Yes.
I have my half brother, he's passed now, lived in Corinth, Mississippi, and he was a fundamentalist preacher. And they loved my first husband. They loved him. I loved him. Great guy. And when he came out as gay and he was murdered, my brother said, "Oh my God, I feel so bad. He's in hell. He's in hell." And he was going on and on. And I said, "No, Frank's up in heaven planning the party, boyfriend. He's not." And my sister-in-law and half-brother mourned and prayed for him to be given a weekend pass out of hell, or I don't know what the current thing is. But their belief brought so much sadness into their life.
Yeah.
How could they not see it as a false belief?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, it
Oh, yes. Oh, I love being shamed.
Yeah, man. I feel like I'm sorry. I was gonna add before my brain just erases it. Um, I was gonna say that what I realized is that these religions, because they're fear based, they limit people so much on everything, on all the experiences, and like being people being themselves, and accepting others as they are also. So it's like because it's so hypocritical, it's like you're supposed to love thy neighbor or whatever, but they're judging them because they're gay or because they're drumming or because whatever, but that's all because of fear. And I always say, like, when I channel whatever I channel, like thoughts, usually it's through my mouth. And the number one thing I say, it's always the fear. It's always the fear that's preventing you from living your best life, from doing anything in this life,
Yeah.
from accepting yourself and others. Fear. And unfortunately, the religion is the number one problem because that's how they operate. That's how they control people. Like, yeah, through fear. So yeah, that was my thought.
Anna,
you.
they got me so afraid of hell, and I didn't believe in hell. You know, being Catholic, man, if I'm wrong, I'm screwed. Not that I
No.
was doing bad stuff. It's just that there were so many rules. I
Mm.
mean, don't eat meat on Friday. Don't see a movie that's above PG. I mean, I went into the damn convent for them to put the fear of hell in me, and it didn't work. I wasn't buying the program. And I tried, man. I gave it the college try. I did everything I could to try to believe in heaven and hell. And I just believed in moving on. That's all I believed in.
That's
It's
it.
hard.
Yes. It's
It's
not easy.
hard.
And that's why we'd rather keep some things to ourselves, because, well, also past lives being burned at the stake didn't help. And that energy probably still somewhere within us, that survival mechanism. Like, I better, like, this time around, maybe, because I don't want to be barbecue again in one shape, form, or another. But then comes a time where enough is enough, and I don't care if you're uncomfortable with the way I speak, what I speak about, and how I drum my drum. you know? So yes, we unite. I think we're gonna see more of us type of people getting up and speaking up and uniting and I see it more and more, women and men reuniting and teaching and trying to help more and more, but that natural survival kind of instinct, I feel like, and some of us still kicks in and we're like, I don't know if I should say that.
You know, I want to pass this on to you today.
Yes.
People will believe us or they won't.
Yeah.
But I am part of 54% of this population. I'm a woman. And there are conservative women, and there are women who will judge us. And as I got older, somewhere around my 65th birthday, everyone who stands in judgment, I compliment them on something. Like, man, I love those eyeglass frames. They look so good on you.
Mhm.
It disarms them. And
Mm.
as women, just because we're women, let's hold up each other.
Yes.
Let's hold up. I don't care if you're born again Christian. I so love your spirit, and hug them. There was a woman in the bathroom. I was at the symphony and she couldn't get her scarf right. And I said, that color looks so good on you. She's like, I can't get it right. And I stopped and I said, let me help. And she felt so better, much better about herself. And afterwards, we waved at each other as we left. Let's be kind to each of us, because no matter what our belief is,
Mhm.
as women, we've been held down for so long. And we know there's something deeper. than heaven and hell. We know that we share wounds, we share life, we share the prejudice against us. Let's be kind to one another. Just go out of your way to compliment another woman.
Mhm.
And if you're in the shopping line and you compliment them, they're going to go home with their groceries and feel good about themselves. So every
Absolutely.
time you get a chance, I mean, that's what I ask of you. Do what you want, but
Mhm. Oh, I do.
I've seen the magic of that. I've seen the magic of that. And let's be the people who carry the magic.
Mhm.
Let's be that.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. Thank you for that. If we don't carry the spark, that's it. Gotta carry it. You gotta keep it inside. You gotta let it also maintain inside of you too, whatever it takes.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Then it'll be easier to share it. Yes. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? We have a couple of minutes left. Here's your chance. Couple of minutes. If you have a question or you'd like to share something real quickly, we'd love to hear from you. Eleanor, do you have anything to share? Are you good? Can't see her. Where is she? There she is. No? Just want to smile and just, okay.
Here's another tip, ladies. Get really big mugs. So when you're
Yeah.
sipping your tea, you don't have to move around as much. You don't have to refill. Just a friendly thought.
That's a very good tip. Yes. Fantastic. Thank you so much for this amazing discussion. I really, really, really am grateful to have met you. Thank you so much, Meredith, for introducing us. Magic. Thank
My, thank you, Anastasia. And thank you, Lynda. This is beautiful.
Thank
Oh, good.
Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it. Any last thoughts or any wisdom in our direction from you?
I got no more wisdom. I'm wisdomed out for the nothing.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And it was such a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you so much. And I hope we still maintain connection going forward after this. I really, really, really am grateful. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. And no matter what's going on outside, let's maintain the sparkle and the light within us and keep going. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of the weekend. And I thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Bye.
Give yourselves some applause right now. Yes, everybody. Woohoo! Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you.